Hello everyone, Mia here from Resonance Astrology and welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna break down the Sun squaring Jupiter aspect, and we are also considering Mercury conjoining Mars in Scorpio. That is going to happen by Monday, because I just feel like both of these are kind of playing into each other. And I'm also going to explain why. But first of all, let's just get a fact down straight, okay? The Sun in Libra is squaring Jupiter in Cancer. Luckily, in this regard, we have the Sun in Libra ruled by a Venus that is currently also in its domicile. So it is supported. The Sun is supported right now. Otherwise, the Sun, just like that in Libra, is in its fall. So the Sun doesn't do extremely well in the sign of Libra, but right now it is getting supported. And we have Jupiter in an exalted position in and of itself, meaning Jupiter is very good right now. At the same time, all of these things, of course, also have downsides. And you know, on my channel, I like to keep things very nuanced. I like to look at things from different angles just because I believe that archetypally there's always multiple layers to everything. And the Sun, Jupiter, any transit for that matter, nothing is gonna be just positive or just negative. And personally, I don't even really like to use the words positive, negative. I know it gets thrown around a lot in astrology. I like to use the words pleasant and unpleasant, because we never really know if an event is fortune or misfortune. We only ever know our ever-changing thoughts to ever-changing events. This is what I just said is taken from the story of the farmer, by the way. And that's what I also like to look at with transits, because we never really know. We never really know if an event is fortune or misfortune, but we can say that in the moment, something is a pleasant or an unpleasant experience. Or we can say that in a natal chart, a certain aspect might be experienced in a more pleasant way while something else might be experienced in a more unpleasant way. So I like to use these words, just FYI. And again, I like to look and take things apart archetypally. I think it's very important because I think it can give us a healthy amount of distance to look at life from a detached way and yet still also participate in it, because we can see the planets more clearly visible in our day-to-day lives or with the things happening around us. So Sun, Jupiter, they're squaring each other. And in the grand scheme of things, that means that this is, let's remember how I talked about the opposition being something like a full moon. Well, the opening square and the closing square for that matter is something like the first quarter and the last quarter moon. So when the moon is like right in half. This is kind of what the square is, and this is also where the tension comes in. Squares are of the nature of Mars, so there is always some sort of tension and this feeling of overcoming something. And to overcome something, there needs to be conflict, usually. Otherwise, what can you overcome if there is no conflict? There's nothing to overcome then. Sun conjoined Jupiter around 24th of June this year, in the sign of Cancer. So obviously it is helpful to look back at that time in your life of what was going on, look through your notes, and just see if there is a theme that maybe emerged during that time. This would have impacted the Cancer part of your chart. And now obviously the Sun is a lot more fast moving than Jupiter. So of course the Sun is going to form the square, the opening square. This is the opening square that we are getting. So it really is something like a first quarter moon, more so. And then around January, we're going to get the opposition. And then around March or something, when the Sun is in the sign of Aries, we're going to get the closing square, which is something like a last quarter moon. And this is a synodic cycle with Jupiter and the sun, okay? Because every time a planet gets in contact with the sun, it's actually like a rebirthing moment. Truly, we don't even call it conjunction, we call it cazimi. This is very specific just to planets coming together with the sun, okay? And so again, now we're at the square moment, the opening square moment. So something has opened, there is conflict that is arising. So whatever story has formed around Sun Jupiter conjoining, caziming in the sign of Cancer around 24th of July, there is friction now. There is something to overcome. Perhaps there was a dream and there was a vision. You know, Sun Jupiter coming together is very warm and sunny in nature. You know, there's a flair feeling to it, a very enthusiastic feeling towards it, a very like joie de vivre type of overjoy, outflowing zest, and just like goodwill and generosity. Obviously, there is also a tendency toward like inflation and grandiosity and self-importance. That's kind of the shadow side of both Sun and Jupiter coming together. But I do believe for a lot of people, there was a vision that started to form around the time when Sun and Jupiter came together for the first time, end of June of 2025 this year, because Cancer as an archetype, this is specifically now them coming together in Cancer, has a lot to do with birthing, with fertile waters, and sort of putting on this vision. And now things are kind of coming to a test. And maybe that's not the right word that I should use, because I don't believe that universe is like constantly testing us or anything like that. Maybe there's just friction in the way where it's like, do you really want it? Is that what you're chasing? Do you want to go all in? Or no? Like, it's okay to say no as well. It's completely okay to say no as well. And so I do think right now, with also Venus being in Libra as well, certainly there is a moment of realizing, what is it that I need to overcome? Because what we usually want and strive for are our desires, right? Desires are the movement of the universe is what we go after. It's what we wake up every day. If we wouldn't have any desires, there would be no real point in doing anything. And this is kind of what depression is, because we're completely repressing ourselves, what we desire. So there is no movement, there is stagnation. Sun and Jupiter are basically, when they come together, is almost like the antidote or antithesis of depression, to be completely honest. Both of them are so bright, you know, and when I think of, just even when I think of in the cosmos, you know, the sun being this big epicenter, and then Jupiter basically coming like in size, you know, it's like the biggest of the 7 inner planets. Both of them, and that's why both of them can have a sense of like inflation to them, because they're both so big. And there can be a feeling of like over optimism. But yes, so there is something, I feel like a lot of people right now are very clear in what they want, like very clearly seeing, what is it that I desire? And then we have Mars and Scorpio. What do I need to do to go after it? So I do think this is up in the air. I think Sun Jupiter just could potentially create a feeling of over-exertness, of feeling like over-optimistic about certain things, and not seeing, like basically just seeing the big picture of like, oh, this is where I want to go, but not realizing there are actually a lot of small steps that one needs to do and undertake to get there where they want to do. And while everything might right now seem like a joy of living or the breath of life, and also again, we're also going to go to the shadow side next, okay? Because not everyone's going to feel that way, okay? Not everyone is going to feel the joy of life right now. That's just Not the case. There's millions of experiences every day. And I think that's what the planets teach us, if we look at them through the archetypal lens, is that they can show up so differently for everyone. And that's why not all transits are going to affect everyone in the same way. But obviously, for a lot of people, there is a feeling of growth, of things growing, of things developing, of there almost being some sort of saving grace of like, oh yes, like I can actually do this. I can actually overcome my shortcomings and my limitations. Let's not forget that Saturn is back in Pisces right now, and one of the rulers of Pisces is Jupiter. And so this is also affecting Saturn right now. So I feel like whatever this past weekend felt like a shortcoming, now it feels like I can overpass that. Because again, it's a square aspect and Mars right now is in a good position. Okay, so we're like, I know exactly what to do to overcome and surpass my limitations and the things that kind of were my shortcomings in life. There's also probably an urge to creatively express oneself. The sun has so much to do with our self-expression. And then when both of these planets come together, there is a feeling of, I want to be recognized. Especially I want to be recognized for my efforts, okay? Both of these signs are very socially oriented, very Cancer more familiar oriented, more tribe oriented, Libra more just social group oriented. So it's like I want to be recognized for my efforts, for what I put in, what I gave. I want to get that in return. I want to get the recognition in return, which is good, you know. Sometimes we need to step up and realize like that is like sometimes the most healing thing can be like actually just getting the recognition, you know, and not playing it small. For sure, again, sometimes we might play it too big and our egos might be inflated. But I would say for a lot of people, and probably a lot of people watching here, I would say you probably don't fall into the latter category. You probably fall into the category of not getting enough recognition. And this can feel really beautiful. It's so healing. Most of us, you know, the experiences that were traumatizing in life is because we were not fully seen in our struggle and in the things that we went through. Like that's what made the event traumatic. Whereas for somebody else that experienced something similar or same to you, the same events happen or very similar events happen, they didn't develop a trauma out of it. Well, it's probably because they had the support. They were seen in their struggles and they let themselves be seen in the struggle to overcome it. So it didn't, like, it might have been very hard in the moment, but long term, it didn't cause it to, like, it didn't cause our body to recognize it as something that's shameful. And so I do feel like that is a very beautiful moment right now to overcome something like that and really be seen in the struggles, in where we have overworked ourselves, overextended ourselves. Sun in Libra, Jupiter in Cancer, very much often overextending themselves. Right now, sometimes it can be about you. Can be about you. There's always balance, okay? Libra, right? It's always about balance. And the balance can be usually achieved for a brief moment, not for eternity, because everything is constantly moving and changing. There's also a real urge for like goodwill and generosity and like towards like cooperation and just, yeah, like being honest about things and telling people how you honestly feel. And yeah, just like this giving nature of people. I feel like it is up in the air right now of like, yes, there is help, there is support, there is help, there is support. Jupiter also is a planet of societal structures, of cultures. Why? you might ask? Because we often think of Saturn as structures. Jupiter has so much to do with structures. It's all about the institutions. And again, why? Because Jupiter rules over our beliefs. And our beliefs shape our whole world structure, our daily structure. Our views, our beliefs shape civilizations, shape cultures. The church, or any sort of, I don't want to make this like about religion itself, but just it is a matter of fact that it is the driving force of what people do, how they relate to each other. Opinions and beliefs are very well, I'm forgetting the word right now. Polarizing. Cancer is also very tribal. A sign of Cancer can be extremely tribal. And when it comes to beliefs, when it comes to religion, people can be extremely tribal. And there's no, when I'm saying this from a level of just acknowledging that that is an archetype. There's no picking sides here right now. There's just, I think we can observe things from a way of seeing like, yes. Because I know there's a lot of conflicts in the world going on right now. And I think we can just observe here that it is a fact that there is a lot of tribalism and nationalism going on. And both parties feel that way. Both parties feel that way. Both parties will feel protective over their people, over their nationality. And while again, Jupiter exaltation can be very expansive, but it can also be overprotective. That's the crux of planets and exaltation. Okay, they're here at the roller coaster ride, they're at the top. And when you're at the top, the only way to go is down. Sometimes planets in exaltation, they don't realize the privilege that they have because it's just normal for them to do certain things. When it's like, actually, it's not really normal. Like, it's actually, maybe it's just, it comes natural to you. Doesn't mean it comes natural and easy towards everyone. And again, just beliefs and all of that can just be polarizing. I also often like to think, and I brought this metaphor up a lot when Mars was in Cancer, because Mars is in fall in the sign of Cancer, and we had this huge Mars retrograde going on beginning of this year, right? And there's something called the crab bucket theory, where, and this is real, this is a real thing. When you put crabs in a bucket, what they end up doing is that when one wants to start crawling out, the other crabs, instead of helping them or like helping each other to get out of this bucket, they start tearing each other down. Like, Google it, if you haven't seen it, Google it. It's a very interesting phenomenon that happens. And I think it says so much about Cancer in an archetypal form. So sometimes that's what happens with this tribal instinct of Cancer, where it's like either everyone wins or none of us win. Either you're in or you're out. Like, either you have this belief system within us and you're safe and you're protected as long as you do, but when you don't, bye-bye, you can go out, you can be a lone wolf, try figuring it out yourself. You're not part of our family anymore, of our belief system anymore. Which is sad, right? Because it leaves out a lot of room for people that can have and handle critical opinions and kind of see the standpoint of multiple sides, multiple ways. Because it's so hard to just be like, oh, this person is right and this person is wrong, when both people from both sides have an urge to protect, for a matter of fact. Cancer is so much about protection. Think of, how does a crab look? It has a protective shell over it. And the inside is very is very fuzzy. And one interesting thing that crabs do is they molt. And I actually use this metaphor also for Jupiter in Cancer around growing pains. Growing pains is just the perfect wording. When a crab molts and puts away its shell, it's like a newborn. And it needs to be in a state of almost like hypervigilance, I guess you could say, because it needs to be extremely protective, because it's the most like... It can be more easily attacked during that time until it grows a new shell, until the shell is strong and hard enough to be super protective again. And I think that just says a lot about Jupiter in Cancer right now. A lot of people have been going through growing pains, okay? This is one thing here as well. Jupiter is a benefic planet, yes. That doesn't mean that benefic planets cannot be hard to deal with. The expansion of Jupiter is sometimes terrifying, is oftentimes overwhelming. That's why it's called growing pains. That's why it's called growing pains. And a lot of people have been experiencing and sitting in with a lot of grief. Jupiter in Cancer, until now and probably also until the end of the transit, is a lot about grief. Because once you let go of a part of yourself and you grow into something new, something more expansive, something that is able to hold more pleasure, it can be so, like, you can seriously sit down and grieve the version of you that was unable to do that was unable to hold the abundance, that was unable to process. And that can be about grief too. Like, receiving good things in life can sometimes feel very overwhelmingly sad because it brings up so much things around worth, self-worth. I've already talked a bit about the shadow qualities, but let's dive a bit more into them. Yes, tendency towards pride, egotism, grandiosity, self-importance, self-centeredness, self-righteousness. I do think there is a potential from a shadow side, this aspect being very self-righteous. Because if you believe that your beliefs and what is just, Libra is so much about justice. If you believe your sense of justice is the right one, well, that's going to be polarizing because you're going to believe the other person's sense of justice is not. Or even from a religious standpoint of view, we have Jupiter here again. Worldviews shape worlds, shape everything around us. And if you believe that your religion or the way that you see the world is superior than another person, or that your race is superior, or that your tribe is superior, or that your culture is superior, well, that can cause a lot of problems, a lot of conflict, a lot of tension. There's a possibility of being full of oneself, of feeling like it almost has like a messiah type of quality. When people get these grand delusions, psychosis even goes into that direction. And that's certainly something that can happen. And I was just thinking what I also want to bring into this video. Let's start talking about these things now. Because I was thinking, what was I watching these past 2 days over on YouTube? What was recommended to me? And I feel like a lot of the things that I watched were very Sun square Jupiter. First of all, I was watching something around AI psychosis, ChatGPT psychosis, all of that. Why is that dangerous? Because this intelligence is built upon that way that it confirms our worldview. And this can get into dangerous territory. This also happens on a tribal level, right? When you are surrounded by people that are pushing a certain delusion, well, things can go overboard. And since many of you are new here, I used to work as a psychiatry nurse, so I have experience in working in a field where psychosis is a daily topic. I don't work there anymore for many years, but that is where I used to work for around 6 years of my life. It's where I did my apprenticeship and everything. There's also a phenomenon there, which I'm not sure what the name of that is right now, but essentially what happens and what the downside is of psychiatry, is, in my humble and honest opinion, is putting people in an already very hypervigilant, heightened state of like delusion around other people with the same issue. That can trip people up for real. Sometimes it even tripped me up, especially when I was working at a station that was more specified around that. Personally, I always had a much easier time working with people that struggle with anxiety, that struggle with depression. But when it comes to psychosis, when it comes to delusions, I think that is such a hard thing to do. And I'm not your best gal to ground you, you know? Like, I'm not that type of person. There's other people that can do that in a much better way. I'm like usually the person, I'm like, well, let's go explore this deeper. Maybe it is a sign. Maybe you seeing numbers is the universe wanting to tell you something. Maybe it's an archetype showing up. But I think the whole chat GPT psychosis thing taps into something interesting, because essentially it is a mirror. It really is, because it mirrors back your thoughts yourself. In an ironic way, you can almost get to know yourself better through chat GPT. But it takes a grounded person to use it, and I can certainly see the dangers of being in a vulnerable state and then getting your worldview, which is Jupiter, getting reflected back. And because like a lot of AI is very much has a hype man quality in it. And you know, Sun Jupiter is your hype man transit. Because it can make something small turn into something big. And that's what a lot of with these people happened. They didn't use ChatGPT or any other AI for that matter. It started off very simple, like using it for homework. And then one day, you're alone, you had a fight with your partner, and you're like, gosh, I wish I had somebody to talk to. None of my friends are here. Let me talk to ChatGPT, you know? And then you have a healing experience, like, wow, I'm understood so much. I could process this so well. And then it goes deeper and deeper. And if you're already someone in a vulnerable state and you don't have someone to also mirror you back where you might be false or question you, you can get easily in a very dangerous territory. So I do think this transit definitely brings up the issue of that. And you know, the release of all these chatbots that are here to be so nurturing. and oh gosh, it just feels so everything that is up in the air with astrology right now. And one of the reasons for me personally why I have these healthy detachments when I look upon things in the world. It might be my own Jupiter in Aquarius, why I'm personally able to do that. But like, I can just see the planets showing up in certain things, and that gives me some sort of solace in the way that I can be like, I might not understand everything, but there is a reason why it's happening right now, because the planets are showing. They're expressing themselves in this way in the universe right now. That helps me to cope with life a lot. And why astrology saved me multiple times in that way. Then some other things that I was watching today. I randomly stumbled, it was in my recommended, around like Nico's video. Gosh, I don't know his full name because I'm not like super subscribed to his channel. But it's basically the guy, he went into this rally in the UK. Gosh, I'm gonna butcher this because I don't know the exact name of the movement, but it's basically people in the UK being very much like, yeah, like we're gonna bring back, you know, basically like make Britain great again, and these are our streets, and the other people should get kicked out, blah blah. I was like, that's so Sun Jupiter too. And that's the shadow quality of it. And he basically went undercover because he's a black man. And basically he put on this whole like mask. It was incredibly crazy to look like a white man. And he wanted to basically go undercover to see what people are really thinking. And it was intense. To the point where you're like, these people really have these thoughts. There's people with so much hatred in their heart. Something that for me is often very hard to understand, to be completely honest. Like I have a very hard time understanding people that have so much hatred in their hearts. And the worst part about all of this is that we don't even know. How many of these people might be your neighbors, people you work with? You don't even know their true feelings and opinions, and they might be carrying so much pain or racism, nationalism in their hearts. It's very much alive. It's hurting me when I think about it, but it's very much alive. And I do think that's Jupiter in Cancer as well. I do think that is Jupiter in Cancer as well. Showing up again in nationalism. Because that's kind of what this is, right? It's like, make this country great again by keeping the people that were born here in and the people that do not belong here out. Tribalism, nationalism. That's all of that as well. And for better or for worse, somehow, from an archetypal lens, this is descriptive of that. And again, there might be a lot of ethical blind spots. You know, beliefs can make us blind. And beliefs are not often logical, right? That's why Jupiter and Mercury signs are in opposition. Because Mercury is all about logic. Mercury wants the evidence. Jupiter has a lot to do with faith and belief. And faith and belief can be a beautiful thing. An absolutely beautiful thing. But the shadow quality of that is also that oftentimes there is no logic to it, and people can simply, based off of faith, make critical decisions towards their fellow men and fellow people from like a completely entitled way of thinking, and feeling like there is a special privilege simply because they believe in a certain thing and they think it's superior, or because they think they're a superior race, or because they think they're superior because they were born in a certain place or region or country. Which that might lead to feelings of restlessness and dissatisfaction in the grand scheme of things. So isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting how both of these things can kind of coexist? And there might be people experiencing the good side about Sun and Jupiter and feeling like, wow, I feel so happy and I feel buoyant and optimistic. Honestly, that's how I'm currently feeling. I'm feeling like there's a breath of fresh air up in the air, up in the cosmos, of like my creativity being super fueled and all of that. And at the same time, like sitting down and watching these videos today, which are not my average watch of videos. Like that's not like what I averagely watch when I am on YouTube at all. So it was interesting that it came up right now. Which just makes me see like, damn, there is still also so much hatred in the world. And it makes me very sad. And it's also in a way a reality check, I think. Because while I'm super grateful that I have my tribe, so to say, and the people around me that I deeply love and that I deeply appreciate and cherish, and also very protective about them. for me, they are good people, right? But then there's other people. But you know, what can I say? Because these people that maybe go to these rallies, they have a sense of community too. They bond over a hatred. They feel that they are righteous and they're overprotective over their people as well. It might be the same experience in that way, even though I might completely disagree with their point of view of why they are doing something. From an experiential level, they're just doing the same thing. They're being overprotective over their family, over their tribe, over the people that they love for whatever reasons. And this is why being human sometimes is hard. This is why being human sometimes is hard. But I love that we have astrology to explain these things. And at the beginning of next week, we have Mars and Mercury coming together in the sign of Scorpio. Which again, on a positive note, I think both of, like, Mars and Mercury coming together in the sign of Scorpio, very much about being direct, about telling the truth, about not sugarcoating things, setting boundaries, cutting people off if needed. All very positive. At the other hand, you know, let's not forget this can also bring in a lot of like hatred and like, I'm going to tell the truth because I believe in it. And Mercury enters pre-shadow period next week, which means Mercury and Mars are gonna conjoin each other 2 more times, 3 times in total. And in the middle of Mercury's retrograde, that's going to be in the sign of Sagittarius. Mars and Mercury are going to come together in the sign of Sagittarius, which is a sign ruled by Jupiter, and which is why I believe both of these kind of coincide together. Mercury is in its detriment in the sign of Sagittarius. So let's just say, it's going to be interesting what happens then, and I have a bit of respect of what's going to happen then, in terms of how people could potentially react on a global level with their beliefs, but with feeling righteous about their beliefs and who they believe deserves to be here again. And all of this is coming from a place and a sense of justice, right? Which is such a Libran theme. And what we believe is just depends so much on our experience. So many of our wars are started because of that exact reason. So many of people are getting eliminated, if I can use that word, due to feuds of thousands of centuries ago of tribalism. Because this nation did something to my great-grandfather, when your great-grandfather did something to this. And then actually, and I don't want to make this video too long, but I want to talk about this. What then came to my mind was actually an anime. Attack on Titan. I rarely watch anime nowadays, but I used to be a very avid anime watcher, and I actually started watching anime when Attack on Titan came out back then, which was like one of my first animes that I watched. That's why it does hold a special place in my heart. I think it explores this topic on an archetypal level in an amazing way. Obviously, this anime has a lot of sad sides to it, but I just think from an archetypal level, if there is something that I could bring to you, or just like, I just think Attack on Titan explains nationalism, tribalism, wars about beliefs of justice and injustice very well. And is very much a metaphor for what is going on in the world, in multiple nations. And I do think, the universe is expressing itself in some sort of way in that way. Through metaphors and through real life things. But we need the metaphors to sometimes explain the real life things, right? So, I think this is what I have for you guys. This video certainly is a bit of on a darker tone. But I do believe it's important to sit with everything. And I'm certainly, like, I'm not an astrologer that's going to cherry pick. I'm not someone that's going to make things better than they are. And I'm also not going to sit here and pretend something's worse than it is. Because everything has multiple sides to it. And again, I think all of this is going on through this is following again, because this Sun-Jupiter theme is going to get extended when we have the opposition, which is happening around January. We have the final Mercury-Mars conjunction also in January in the sign of Capricorn, where Mars is exalted. Very interesting that this is like the interplay of like Mercury and Mars with its dignities here, right? Because we have this first conjunction now where Mars is in a strong position. Mercury doesn't have any dignity. We have a second conjunction. Mars has no specific dignity in Sagittarius. Mercury is in its detriment. I believe this will be the harshest one, to be completely honest, the middle one. And because Mercury is retrograde. And then we have the final conjunction when Mars is in exalted position and Mercury, again, doesn't have any specific dignity in Capricorn. So whatever is kind of like brewing up now is most definitely following us all the way up until the month of January. And of course, on a personal level, you know, I'm talking here a lot about archetypes. How it's going to show up in your chart is going to be very different. It's going to be very unique depending on which houses it's happening in and depending on which certain natal planets are getting activated. And I mean, honestly, this is the reason why people get consultations, right? Because like I cannot talk to every single person directly like that. So this is what I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is what I'm leaving you with. And yeah, I'm curious to know your thoughts, guys. Your beliefs. Your polarizing beliefs. I'm just kidding. I hope on this channel there are a lot of wonderful people that hopefully can see things like me in a very nuanced way and have the capacity to think critically and hold multiple truths in one reality and see things express themselves in an archetypal way. So, I'm wishing you guys a lovely weekend ahead. And again, I'm curious to hear how this is kind of coming up in your life or showing up in your life. And we are going to see each other soon. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye for now.